So back in September, I came down to Fargo and I auditioned for American Idol. I was super lucky to be one of the few people who received a golden ticket from Fargo to make it all the way to Los Angeles. And that was just a blessing itself. And I met so many cool people, I learned so many things. And this is one of my audition songs. I got to run and keep from hiding, and I'm bound to keep on riding. And I got one more silver dollar, but I'm not gonna let them catch me, no, I'm not gonna let them catch the midnight rider. I don't the clothes I'm wearing, a similar bed I'll soon be sharing. And I got one more silver dollar, but I'm not gonna let them catch me, no, I'm not gonna let them catch the midnight rider. I've done past the point of carrying, I said more than bed I'll soon be sharing. And I got one more silver dollar, but I'm not gonna let them catch me, no, I'm not gonna let them catch the midnight rider. But I'm not gonna let them catch me, no, I'm not gonna let them catch the midnight rider. But I'm not gonna let them catch me, no, I'm not gonna let them catch the midnight rider. Thank you.
How about another big round of applause for Brianna Helbling, an amazing talent right here from North Dakota. If you haven't seen a little bit of her biography that's going on in the background, of course, she did mention going out and getting that golden ticket, but believe it or not, she's from Mandan, North Dakota, right in the heart of North Dakota. And of course, an artist at age 17 that has talent beyond her years, and I know much more to come. So, as I mentioned, my name is Sean Sipma. I am one of the board directors for Farm Rescue. I've been a director since, and I got to try to figure out my timelines, I want to say about 2013, but what we're going to hear tonight is, I think, each individual person, as we really look back at what brought us all together, Farm Rescue. And when you ask someone, you know, how did you hear or how did you get connected with Farm Rescue, we can almost pinpoint the moment to the day and to the time where you either found out about Farm Rescue or where it made that direct impact. I've told the story before, but I see some new faces in the crowd, so I'm just going to briefly compact my story a little bit. But I can tell you it was in early January in 2006 when I was a young reporter for KXMC, the CBS affiliate in Minot, where I got called from the back newsroom up to meet a gentleman who said that he wanted to tell me about this new idea that he was going to be launching at the KMOTA Ag Expo in Minot, that the KMOTA Ag Expo was coming up that next week, and he wanted me to do a story on it. That normally was like a red flag when somebody says, hey, I've got a great story for you as a journalist. But I went back and that was the very first time I met Bill Gross, and he told me about this idea that he has sponsored equipment that he is going to go around and assist farm families in crisis, those that have experienced a major illness, injury, or natural disaster. And I thought, wow, those are some lofty goals. You know, we've talked about being able to assist through different mechanisms, different programs, but I'd never heard anything like this. And it wasn't until that spring when we rolled out in southwestern North Dakota, and I should say they rolled out in southwestern North Dakota, I showed up with my camera for that very first case, and it was at that moment that I saw the impact and everything that was to come. And from that moment on, I was on board not only as a journalist, but helping out with some of the different public relation items behind the scenes, doing some of the commercials, and that is my connection to Farm Rescue. And I know every single person in here has a very unique story for themselves on that connection, that moment on when Farm Rescue came into your life. And we're going to hear a little bit about those tonight, but before I start rambling on, because I can, I want to introduce Mr. Bill Gross. He is the president and founder of Farm Rescue. He is the man that dreamed up the idea in a UPS airplane flying somewhere over the Pacific Ocean when his co-pilot looked over at him and said, "Why are you going to wait with this grandiose idea until you're retired? Do it now. Do it while you're young. Do it and don't look back." So ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bill Gross.
Well, welcome everyone. It's just wonderful to see everyone here tonight. And thank you, Sean, for that great introduction. And in the early years, yes, never envisioned that Farm Rescue would become so large, impact so many farm families. It's just an amazing avenue of goodness where people can come forward, the volunteers, the sponsors, and the farm families themselves have a place to turn in a time of severe crisis, be it an injury, illness, or natural disaster. And I'm just so happy and thankful that all of you share the same passion and mission as we do here at Farm Rescue. So let me summarize the year for Farm Rescue. It started out as a typical year, if there is such a thing as that for our operations at Farm Rescue, but it certainly didn't end up that way. Actually, far from it. We started with our planting, preparing, haying operations, preparing for harvesting, but as haying season was upon us, we soon realized that a severe drought was gripping much of our state, and that there actually wasn't a lot of hay to put up, and that actually what people needed was help getting hay. And so we quickly shifted gears to where we felt we could do the most good this year, help the most people, and to help maintain that livelihood of those farmers and ranchers. And so we announced that we would launch Operation Hay Lift. Operation Hay Lift is a phrase taken from an Operation Hay Lift in 1949, where there was a severe blizzard and they used helicopters to deliver hay out to cattle in the pastures so they wouldn't starve to death. So we just coined that phrase, took that on as Operation Hay Lift, and what that means is that we mobilized a pretty sizable fleet of semi-trucks. It was 8 semi-trucks and trailers. We're still doing that quickly. Also got the word out that we were accepting donated hay from other states to help ranchers right here in North Dakota. And we soon, when we announced that, started getting applications, of course, from the ranchers, hundreds of them pouring in, hundreds upon hundreds. I'm not talking 100 or 200, hundreds of them pouring in from western North Dakota, because what we were offering is to haul your hay for free or for fuel reimbursement, depending on how many loads it was. So of course that's a pretty good deal to help out the ranchers there, because it's one thing between purchasing the hay, it's another thing to get it hauled any long distance. And so pretty soon we had all these applications. We didn't have enough CDL drivers, to be quite honest, so we were scrambling to get drivers, and we put out the word for that. Drivers started coming in from other states, as far away as Texas, Florida, all over. We started getting hay donated from Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa, and so we got it in motion, but it took a lot to get it. Basically, there's small trucking companies that aren't as large as that with 8 trucks going, with the legal requirements, the CDL drivers, the logistics of who's going to load the hay, who's going to unload it, and when to get it there. So it was a huge undertaking. But we accomplished it in addition to conducting our normal harvest operations. And I have to say, it stretched our organization to the limit, and our staff, probably beyond, to be quite honest. And so we helped so far this year, and we're not done because we're still hauling hay, 125 plus farm families. Now that's more than double what we've done in any previous year. So a huge undertaking. We're going to be hauling hay through December, January, all winter long. There's still lots of ranchers that have bought hay and need it delivered. So we're still in the process of that. And, you know, I need to give recognition to the staff and the board of directors here. It has been our most challenging year ever with 125 plus cases, both in the terms of trying to raise funding to keep that going, and the terms of logistically pulling it off and actually delivering, doing what we say we're going to do, obviously is important. So at this point, you know, I would like to have the staff and the board of directors come up on stage here, if you can come up right now. Any board members and staff, and the volunteers, we're going to recognize the volunteers later. Levi is going to recognize them. We have a special section for volunteers that we're going to devote more time to. So if the staff and board members would please come up. I just want to recognize everyone here. They put in long hours, far, far above and beyond, working weekends, weekdays, nights. We've never had that much, should we say, commitment in any previous year. I want to show you who works behind the scenes here. So starting to my right, we have Dan Erdman, who is our Marketing Communications Officer. You see the nice videos on our website and on Facebook and things like that. Dan puts those things together, does an absolute professional job. Very important in getting the word out, you know, showing sponsor recognition, and for people who support our organization. Thank you, Dan, for your hard work. And we have Lynn Oline, who is our Office and Outreach Coordinator, basically the office manager, wears about 1,000 hats, everything from processing donations to organizing this whole banquet, to taking all the calls from the farmers for the applications, and about 1,000 other things, all the mass mailings and everything, pretty much single-handedly. And then we have Carol Willinga, and she's our Director of Operations. She is responsible for the daily operations of the organization. She is my right-hand woman, shall we say, instead of right-hand man. Talk to her a couple times a day usually, and she makes it happen. And then Levi Willinga, which is her husband, he is our equipment specialist. He makes sure all the equipment is in tip-top shape, makes sure the volunteers have what they need in making our semi-trucks, equipment, everything. Thank you, Levi, for keeping our operation in motion. And we have David Smith here, who is our development officer. He's the person, he's the money guy. So he's the person who's responsible for making sure the funds keep coming in, and that the sponsors are recognized, and just, you know, making sure we have the funds to continue forward with our mission. Thank you, David. And we have Sean Sipma, who is, he introduced himself already a little bit here, but been on the board for many years. I put in thousands of hours of also video work and just volunteering. Thank you, Sean. Kyle Nelson, who is, well, let me back up to Sean here also. Sean, you're not getting away that easy. Sean, yeah, so Sean is a commissioner in Minot right now, and he just announced a few weeks ago he is running for mayor of Minot. So we wish you good luck on that, Sean. Yeah. And Kyle Nelson, He is the president at Bremer Bank in Rugby, been on the board for many years, and also the vice president of Farm Rescue. And then we have Jed Wall, who's with Legend Seed, and he's the treasurer of Farm Rescue, making sure everything's in order, and works with me and David and such and the board. So thank you, Jed, for your service also. Okay, let's give them all a round of applause. Now, there are two other people that help us out that are, one might be here tonight, but maybe not. Jennifer Stetz. Jennifer, she does special projects for us from afar. She actually works for Monsanto and lives several states away from us, not even in our service area, but she has such a passion for farm rescue that she contacted us, volunteers virtually all of her time, and she has helped immensely on some special projects like the raffle and so on. Thank you, Jennifer. And we also have Kristen, who is thank you. And we also have Kristen, who is a part-time assistant out of Sioux Falls to help Carol with her heavy workload also. Okay, without any more delay here, I would like to have David Smith come back up here. David?
Thank you, Bill. Well, last year during this banquet, a new tradition was born, the Good Samaritan Award. It was a very moving experience and just a wonderful thing that we're going to be carrying on tonight. As we discuss the criteria for selecting the recipient of the award, a simple but a very deep and meaningful statement seemed to arise. That is, an individual who supports farm rescue with the compassionate heart of the Good Samaritan. And in discussing this award last year for the banquet, I wanted to share the story of the Good Samaritan, and I hope I can do that again tonight if you'll honor me. It's such a powerful story and so truly rooted in the compassionate assistance of farm rescue. It's at the heart of everything we do. So please allow me from Luke chapter 10, verses 25 through 37, the parable of the Good Samaritan. On one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. "Teacher," he said, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" "What is written in the law?" he replied. "How do you read it?" He answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul and strength, and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." "You have answered correctly," Jesus replied. "Do this, and you will live." But he wanted to justify himself. He asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" In reply, Jesus said, "A man was going down the road from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened along the road, and when he saw the man, he passed by the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came to where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. When he put the man on his donkey, he brought him to the inn and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave it to the innkeeper. 'Look after him,' he said, 'and when I return I will reimburse you any extra expense you may have.' Which of these 3 do you think was the neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers?" The expert in the law replied, "The one who had mercy on him." Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." Like I said, just such a moving biblical story there, of course, and something that's at the heart of what we do. We're honored here tonight to have the recipient of last year's Good Samaritan Award, the first award that was ever handed out, and I'd like to recognize Angus Ludall. Thank you, Agnes. Thank you, Agnes, for your compassionate heart in supporting farm rescue. Now we carry on the tradition of the Good Samaritan Award by celebrating an individual who inspired the earliest years of farm rescue, a friend, a mentor, even a past employer of Farm Rescue's founder, Bill Gross, as well as a longtime volunteer, supporter, and board member to the organization. We're pleased to present the 2017 Good Samaritan Award to Mr. Ruben Leichty. Please welcome to accept the award on Ruben Leichty's behalf, who's not able to be here tonight with us, his good friend, Bill Gross.
That's a beautiful award. Thank you. I'll let you hang on to it, David, just a second here there you go. So yes, Reuben Lichty could not be here tonight. He was one of the founding board members and a good friend, a wonderful man, and I'm honored to accept on his behalf the Farm Rescue 2017 Good Samaritan Award. It's the first time a board member has received the award, but anyone who knows Reuben Lichty would say that he is certainly deserving of this award. Reuben is the most humble, sincere, genuine person I have ever met in my life. I can say that with 100% certainty. And Reuben wrote a few things here that I'm just going to read as he wrote them. He wanted me to read. So this is from Reuben. I met Bill when he was in high school, in which he worked for me on the farm on weekends. Bill was very ambitious and inquisitive. He always had questions about why we did certain things. He often had a good idea on how we might improve something we were doing. In 2005, Bill organized and started Farm Rescue, whereupon he asked me if I would serve on the Farm Rescue Board of Directors. I asked Bill why he wanted me to be on the board, and he said he wanted a real farmer on the board. I have had the privilege of serving on the Farm Rescue Board ever since. Having been a farmer for 62 years, it is a real blessing to be able to help other farmers in need and to see the love and compassion that all of the volunteers have to help farmers and ranchers in need. I want to thank Bill Gross and the Farm Rescue Board of Directors for the honor they have given me as the Farm Rescue Good Samaritan Award recipient of 2017. And Reuben, God bless you for all the service you've put in to the organization this year, or during your time on the board, and we appreciate and value your commitment and your passion. So I'm going to turn this over to David again.
Please take note on your banquet brochure that we have some just wonderful, strong words of support from North Dakota Senators John Hoeven and Heidi Heidkamp. I'd like to just read quick excerpts of each. First from Senator Heidkamp. Farm Rescue truly exemplifies the helping spirit of Midwesterners and others you have come to aid, and those who have experienced an unexpected health, injury, or natural disaster crisis. Now from Senator Hoeven. Your efforts are especially noteworthy over the past year when our agricultural producers were facing widespread persistent drought. Operation Haylift will be remembered by many as a vital support for ranching families as they fought to maintain their operations. In rural communities, it is common for folks to help one another when in need, and this organization shows that this neighborly spirit is alive and well in the heartland of America. You lend a helping hand when needed most, and we appreciate the generosity and hard work of our volunteers and staff. Thank you, Senators Hoeven and Heidkamp, for those wonderful letters you sent. I'd also like to recognize elected officials with us here tonight. North Dakota State Senator and Grafton, North Dakota farmer, Mr. Tom Campbell. Thank you for being with us. Also, our Public Service Commissioner, Mr. Brian Crocius. Thank you, sir. Thank you both for witnessing the testimonies of farm rescue families and volunteers to come. Farm Rescue is honored to have the support of government officials across the upper Midwest, while at the same time, we are independent of state or federal funding. We're able to carry out our farm and ranch family assistance missions through the generosity of supporting business sponsors, corporate and family grant programs, and financial contributors by many individuals throughout the year. Speaking of wonderful business sponsors, I'd like to take a moment to thank our business sponsors, working with farm families to build stable, profitable ag sector. We have diversified crop insurance services supporting us. providing reliable, consistent credit and financial services to Royal Communities Ag Country Farm Credit Services is a sponsor of the banquet this evening. A utility-scale wind and solar energy developer, Geronimo Energy, and providing only the best seed and snacks that you're healthy and for your family. Giant Snacks is also a supporter. Please also take note in your banquet of the commodity auction and silent auction donors. That's all happening over here, and some just wonderful items. The commodity auction is very unique to Farm Rescue, with seed and fertilizer available within the auction for bidding, and then of course our silent auction items. Thank you very much for the support of these businesses supporting the banquet. Through this avenue of support, Farm Rescue can present such an evening while focusing other monies on the family assistance programs. Thank you for that. Farm Rescue, as been mentioned tonight, just so many wonderful accomplishments throughout 2016 and 2017, with a doubling of the amount of families we've been able to support. We've built upon those successes, and we continue to build upon those successes with the support of our annual business sponsors. It's truly a blessing to have the support of business sponsors. Please take a note of the names and logos you see on the screens, as well as on the machinery and vehicles that Farm Rescue uses, on our billboards, through digital communications. These businesses are really part of the farming analogy. They're the roots, and our accomplishments are the harvest. I'd like to welcome Bill Gross back to stage to introduce representatives from our generous annual business sponsors. Thank you.
I wanted to expand a little bit more on this Operation Haylift that I forgot to mention when I was up here previously, that, you know, for us to launch Operation Haylift, we couldn't have done it without a few, you know, key companies that provided equipment. We have RDO Equipment Company that provided loader tractors, RDO Truck Centers that provided semi-trucks for us, Anderson Trucking Services, trailers for hauling hay. They're the company that does hauling for John Deere Seeding Group out of Valley City. And also J.P. Wiest, which I believe he's here tonight. J.P., where are you at? Oh, right there. J.P. Wiest. I used to own Wiest Trucking, and from the Jamestown area there, he's donated a trailer for us to use for hay hauling long-term also, so thank you to those sponsors. And along with Haybuster. Haybuster manufactured some out of Jamestown there, manufactured some hay rails for those trailers there. That's not something they typically do, but they rose to the occasion quickly so we could get moving hay for those ranchers, and did an excellent job. There's also a number of companies that committed additional funds to help us keep operation going, and allowed us to launch a new service, which maybe some of you haven't heard of, but I'll say it tonight. It's called Livestock Feeding Assistance. So this is something new that probably many of you have not heard of. And so now Farm Rescue, as of right now, is going to provide livestock feeding assistance to ranchers. So if the same concept as what we've been doing with agriculture, where if a rancher is injured or ill, be it with cancer, broken leg, in the hospital, you can call us up, submit an application. Those cattle need to be fed. It could be this winter, you could be in the hospital. How are your cattle going to be fed? Well, now you can call Farm Rescue. We'll get some volunteers out there, we get some equipment out there, and we will make sure your cattle get fed while you are laid up and need a little help. Of course, there's a time limit on that, how long we can do it, but we're going to do what we can to help people in a crisis, just like we do with the agricultural side of it. I come from a large ranch near Cleveland, North Dakota, and fully understand we had thousands and thousands of head of cattle, and understand what a crisis that is when a rancher is ill and the cattle can't get fed. So those companies that, I'm going to just read them off here, there's a few companies that are directly responsible for us launching livestock feeding assistance. And that is, Haybuster is providing the equipment we need, like the vertical mixers, the bale busters, things like that, to get those cattle fed. First International Bank and Trust increased their sponsorship to make this happen. North Star Credit Union, Napoleon Livestock, Rugby Livestock, One Oak, Hess Oil, Interbase, Tri-Energy Cooperative, Wilson Trailer, Farmers Union Oil of Beulah, and Farmers Union Oil of Velva. Those companies stepped up to the plate to allow us to launch livestock feeding assistance to ranchers, and hopefully more companies and people will do the same. So to move along, we always give 3 sponsors an opportunity to say a few words. And tonight we're going to start with Haybuster, since I just talked about the livestock feeding assistance. And this is a company that had a profound impact on helping the dreams of a rancher's son become a reality and the creation of Farm Rescue. What rancher's son am I referring to? It was the youngest son of John and Lorraine Gross of Cleveland, North Dakota. They were my parents, and it was me. Let me take you back in time. It was the mid-1980s, a time when many farmers and ranchers, like my parents, were struggling to survive, and certainly didn't have the money to send a child to college or expensive pilot training. How did my dreams of becoming an airline pilot become a reality? I approached the founder of Haybuster, Joe Anderson, without my parents knowing it, and asked him to loan me money to complete pilot training at UND. He did, and I repaid him. Had it not been for the generosity of the founder of Haybuster, I would have never become a pilot and certainly would not have been able to start Farm Rescue. That generosity and concern for the well-being of ranchers still exists today at Haybuster. Haybuster has been a financial supporter since the inception of Farm Rescue and is now providing the equipment so we may provide livestock feeding assistance to ranchers. Please join me in a warm welcome for Jay Gotrin, President of Haybuster Duratech Industries.
Well, this could be interesting. Bill just took my notes, but anyway, thank you, Bill. And yes, we have been a longtime supporter of Farm Rescue, and we will continue to be a supporter of Farm Rescue. We are pleased to provide this equipment this year for any of you who may be in need, or anyone who does become in need of such services. A little story. I as well came from a family farm in Nebraska, so I'm a transplant to the North Dakota area. Grew up on a 5,000-acre farm, 1,000 head of cattle. So very much do understand what the farming life is all about. So, you know, we are proud to support Farm Rescue. We will continue to do so. One story I did want to tell, Clarence Coos. Clarence, if you wouldn't mind standing up, please. You know, Clarence has been a long-time volunteer for Farm Rescue. And, you know, the good part about you guys having Clarence, you get him for about 3 or 4 weeks. I get him for the other 47 or 48. So Clarence is a fantastic part of our group at Haybuster. And I know just hearing some of the stories tonight that he's a fantastic part of your group as well. So with that, thank you for the recognition, Bill, and appreciate the time tonight. And thank you again.
So next, I would like to, our next sponsor is going to be Freedom Financial Group. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you the founder and CEO of Freedom Financial Group out of Minot, Marissa Nielsen. Marissa is an expert in financial planning, insurance, and estate planning. I have never met someone so knowledgeable on these subjects in my life. And I can say that with complete certainty. And now for full disclosure, I do business with Marissa. Why do I do business with Marissa? Because she is very, very very good at what she does. It is impressive, actually. Let me give you an example. During just this past year alone, I had 2 different insurance agents, not in our region and certainly not from any sponsors of Farm Rescue, try to sell me on some, what later I found out to be questionable insurance policies. And I asked the insurance agents to join me in a conference call with Marissa. And within 30 minutes on that conference call, Marissa completely unveiled all the weaknesses in their policies and how it would have been a financial disaster for me, actually. And when I asked the agents to submit documentation to Marissa, they hung up and never called me back. They knew Marissa had my back and was acting in my best interest, and I know she will do the same for you. I will never forget what Marissa said to me the first time I started doing business with her team at Freedom Financial Group. She said, "Bill, with what you do for farmers, you are this close to walking on water." And I can honestly say that having witnessed Marissa's expertise in financial planning, estate planning, and in insurance, that Marissa Nielsen is this close to walking on water. It's nothing short of impressive. You spend 30 minutes with her, it'll just blow your mind what she knows and the things you never thought of in finances, insurance, estates. It's amazing. So there is a financial planning package on the auction back there, and on the silent auction, and I will tell you, not everyone rush at the same time here now, but I will tell you, it is worth every dime and more of the retail value, and it is marked down to, I think, about a quarter of the retail value, so I would seriously give that some serious consideration. This would not be a waste of your time by any means. So please join me in welcoming Marissa Nielsen of Freedom Financial Group.
Holy buckets, I know what I'm putting on my Christmas card this year. Bill Gross, yes. Oh, I'm kidding. Good thing I did not have to walk through a door to get in here, because seriously, my head at this point, I'd fall right over. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here. It is an extraordinary opportunity to work with Farm Rescue. I have to tell you, I'm a farm kid from Max. And I learned the value of $1 rock picking. And I used to drive around in the combine and quite frankly, walk beside the tractor as we picked rocks. Because, you know, some farmers, they have rock pickers. My family, we had kids. This is a true story. There's 8 kids in our family. Of the 8 kids, all of us picked rocks or you didn't eat. So that was the opportunity. Get up, pick rocks, and you get to eat. Otherwise, no food on the table. So you learn the value of $1 when you do this. And I remember the day that the auctioneer pulled into our yard in the late 80s. And I remember the day because I had never seen my grandfather, who was the toughest guy I had ever known. He sat on the back of that flatbed trailer and big tears rolled down his face. And I had never seen him cry before. But it was the death of a dream. And that, you know, everyone's got a day in their life when things change and they know it will never be the same again. That was my day. And I remember thinking, this can't be happening. This is our land, and we had homesteaded land that is farmed by someone else today. But you know, Grandpa had been sick, and my dad took over an operation that was already financially failing. And I wonder about those years beforehand, had Farm Rescue been in place then, of what a difference that would have made for my family. So now as I drive past, you know, for those of you who know where Max is at, everyone in the room should know where Max is at, right? Yes. You drive past Max, and we used to farm just north of there, and you know, every time I drive down that road, I look to my right, and I remember those days where my brothers no longer farm, right? My family no longer farms, and what happened then changed my life. And at that point there, I said, I'm going to help people. I'm going to help farmers and ranchers. And so that is what we do at my firm. We don't have fancy billboards. We don't have fancy commercials. Heck, just 2 years ago, I got a brochure, and I was like, whoa, we got a brochure, people. Now, that's a big deal, actually. But the thousands of people that we have helped, you know, I tell people at the end of the day, there are 3 places that you can leave your money when you meet Jesus or the other guy. You get it? Jesus, other guy. I'm about to get fired from ever getting to talk again. Do you feel it? Here it comes. But when you meet Jesus or the other guy, at the end of the day, there are 3 places that you can leave your money. And I joke about a lot of things, and I'll tell you, I am funny, and let's be real. All right. But the things I don't joke about are when it really matters, right? This really matters. There are 3 places you can leave your money when you pass on. You can leave it to the IRS. By the way, this is an IQ question. Ready? Let's get ready for it. IQ question. You can leave your money to the IRS, you can leave it to your family, or you can leave it to a charity. And I meet with a lot of folks that I talk about legacy with, what's important about your life, your family, your purpose, your vision. And this is an extraordinary thing to come alongside people that have businesses that aren't just businesses, right? This is a legacy. Farming and ranching is a legacy, right? You teach a way of life. You don't just teach a skill, you teach a way of life. So if we can continue to walk alongside those people that feed our families, that are the backbone of our communities, that matters. That matters. And what we do on an annual basis even, for things like gifting, you know, we're coming to year end. And there's opportunity for you to write a check to the government, or you can write a check to, also, if there's anybody from the IRS in here, Bill paid me to say this. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm teasing. I'm teasing. But to be fair, there are 3 places you can leave your money, right? Now, I'm really hoping, good luck on this deal, Tom, right? But I'm really hoping that big Washington changes with where my tax dollars go. But until it does, I can tell you where the little extra goes for my world is going to go to organizations that make a difference. So you being in this room, you made a difference today. And the people you know can make a difference today with their finances. Those of us that are people of faith, I remember the first time I met Bill, and I talked with him about, there was a verse in my head. And it was funny because Bill actually loves this same verse. Now, can I say the verse? It's okay. Yeah, so at this point, it's too late. I got the mic, bud. Too late. But Romans 8:28. All things work together for good for those who love the Lord and who are called according to his purpose. And I believe that this organization was called. And I've had the opportunity to see behind the curtain, right? To see the financials and see the situation. I can tell you that when people give of themselves and they are called according to a purpose, together is better. You can't do it alone. Significance is not a number of 1. Success is a number of 1. But significance is a number of this. It's the people you know. So I would encourage you to look at your faith, your finances, your purpose, your legacy, your families, and say, what's important to you about that? And planning for that, taking that to the next level of saying, we're going to support organizations like this in that way, is why we have chosen to come alongside Farm Rescue. And we will continue to come alongside Farm Rescue because they serve the people that I serve. They've helped families that are clients of mine that have gone through cancer. There are lots of bad stuff that happen in the world, but I can tell you when you're those people in this room, like Jerry, who I met earlier, who says, yeah, I'm retired and I came up and we help. You are the hands and feet of Jesus. So, thanks very much.
Thank you, Marissa. If nothing else, you spend some time with Marissa. It's a very pleasant conversation. She opens your eyes to a lot of things. When I leave her office, always gets me thinking about new things and what good we can do in the world and how it can be done. And it's not as big a mountain as you might think to get where you need to go, be it in your financial planning or in your estate planning. And thank you, Marissa, for opening my eyes on that. So, okay, next we are going to have Bremer Bank. We'd like to recognize. The next person I have, which is an honor to introduce, is the president of Bremer Bank in Rugby, North Dakota. And I'm proud to say that he is also the vice president of Farm Rescue, Kyle Nelson. He is very active on several boards and has been instrumental in moving the organization forward during some of very challenging times throughout the years at the organization. I value his wisdom, honesty, and passion for helping farm and ranch families. Bremer Bank and the Otto Bremer Trust have been strong supporters of Farm Rescue since the inception of the organization. We could have never started the organization or maintained this level of service without the financial support of Bremer Bank and the Otto Bremer Trust. They have certainly had a positive impact in our communities. Please join me in a warm welcome for Kyle Nelson.
Good evening. As Bill mentioned, my name is Kyle Nelson. I'm the market president for Bremer Bank. I manage the Rugby, North Dakota market, and I'm also a Farm Rescue Board member. Thank you for attending tonight's banquet, and I'm honored to be part of tonight's program. On behalf of Bremer Bank, I want to thank Farm Rescue for this opportunity to acknowledge the work of this wonderful organization. As a longtime sponsor, Bremer Bank is very proud of its relationship with Farm Rescue because much like Farm Rescue, Bremer Bank is very committed to agriculture. As a Bremer Bank employee, I'm especially proud of Bremer's relationship with Farm Rescue. That sentiment was reinforced when I received notice that the Otto Bremer Trust recently awarded Farm Rescue with a $100,000 grant to further the mission of this unique and awesome organization. Similar to many of you in this room, my first real experience with Farm Rescue came at a pretty scary time. My father-in-law, who was a strong-willed, die-hard farmer, had a serious stroke in the winter of 2013. Not long into his recovery, it became apparent that life as our family knew it was going to change dramatically. A long list of questions started filling my head. How are we going to get through this? How are we going to get the crop in? How is all the work going to get done? But not long after the paranoia of my new reality set in, I received a call from Farm Rescue's founder, Bill Gross. I will never forget that call. Bill explained who he was and the reason for his call. Bill informed me that his office received a call from one of my father-in-law's neighbors, and Bill, on behalf of Farm Rescue, wanted to let me know that he and his organization was willing to do whatever they could to make our family situation better. For any of you in this room that have received a call like that, you know the sense of relief you feel when someone out there cares and is willing to help out. For that reason, Farm Rescue will always hold a special place in my heart. At one of the many graduation ceremonies I've attended over the years, I saw a banner that featured a quote to me that exemplifies farm rescue and the countless numbers of volunteers, sponsors, and others that make this organization what it is. That quote is, "Go out into the world and do well, but more importantly, go out into the world and do good." I'll take a moment to let those words sink in. And as a matter of fact, I think I'll repeat them because they're worthy of being repeated. Go out into the world and do well, but more importantly, go out into the world and do good. With that thought in mind, I really don't think it's necessary to find what it means to go out into the world and do good. However, if you need further explanation, simply look around you. The people at your table, the people in this room are some of the finest examples that I can provide of those that have decided to go out into this world and do good. At this point, I'd like to acknowledge the good work that makes Farm Rescue what it is. To the staff of Farm Rescue, thank you for the tireless work to keep this machine in motion. Your dedication and professionalism comes through in all you do. To the Farm Rescue volunteers, and I know there are a lot of you here tonight, thank you for the long hours and unselfish commitment. I've gotten to know a lot of you in the last couple of years and continue to be humbled by your willingness to go out into this world and do good. To those that lead Farm Rescue, Bill, Carol, Ruben, Jed, Sean, thank you for your sacrifice, your insight, and your willingness to chart the course for Farm Rescue so that it continue to do good. To the Farm Rescue sponsors, thank you for the resources that you have committed to this organization. You have made a great investment. And through your support, you are enabling this organization through the hands of these people to do good. And finally, to Bill Gross, who in my opinion had one heck of a good idea. So with that in mind, there's two stories, if you would indulge me for just a minute here, that I'd like to share about Bill Gross. And those are, I guess, one is a little shorter here, but our family, especially around Christmas time, gets to be a little competitive. And last year we were having what turned out to be a little bit of a fight over who had the best UPS guy. And as you know, Bill works for UPS. So I come a little better well-armed than they did. So my aunt said, well, if I recall correctly, she said, I have the best UPS guy. He's friendly, smiles, great to have around. And not to be outdone, my brother said, well, I've got the best UPS guy. Last year he put me in the Christmas spirit. He had a Santa hat and he had his delivery cart decorated like Santa's sleigh. So I let this settle. And I said, you know what? I have the best UPS guy. And they said, why? And I said, my UPS guy founded Farm Rescue and helped over 500 farm and ranch families. I think I won that argument. And finally, as I wrap up here, it was practiced on the way here with my sons, so I hate to put them through this again, but I will. But I was in Wisconsin last week for some training, and a part of that training, we always started everything with a little bit of exercise before we get into the meat and potatoes. And for those of you that have done those, it just tremendously takes me out of my comfort zone. I come to watch, listen, and leave. But no, we had to break down, and we got pieces of paper. And the facilitator told us we had to figure out what our, what our spirit animal was. And I thought, what in the world are you talking about? And how much are we paying you for this? But the whole idea behind the exercise was to figure out what animal was like you and how it reacted and some other managerial stuff that makes sense. So I didn't really do that well at the exercise, but on the way home with an 8-hour drive ahead of me, I started thinking about, what are the spirit animals of some of my friends and acquaintances? And then it popped up. I said, what's Bill's spirit animal? So, of course, I had some thoughts, and boom, the light bulb went out. I think I know what it is. So I like to, just to make sure, so I went to the website, and lo and behold, yes. So what I kind of picked, I think this is pretty representative of Bill's spirit animal. So as part of that, I Googled it, first of all, because Google is the source that makes everybody look smart. And all I got was Energizer Bunny, mascot of the Energizer Battery Company. Not very good. And then I went out to YouTube, which there's always good stuff on YouTube, and we'll get back to that in a minute. But as I thought about what makes this Bill Gross's spirit animal, and you know, there's a couple things I struggled with. The pink fluff here, you know, I was going to make a stretch and say, you know what? There's a guy with beautiful hair, you know. And this from a guy that you wouldn't think knows much about beautiful hair. I thought, okay, we're stretching a little bit here. And I just, the sandals, no, that wasn't getting where I needed to be. But, you know, he's got these cool sunglasses. We all know Bill's a pretty cool guy. So the other thing that kind of drew me to the conclusion that I knew that this is Bill Gross's spirit animal is because he's banging the drum. And I took the liberty tonight to cover up the Energizer logo and replace it with a Farm Rescue logo. And not only on one side, but on both sides. So one thing I noticed about this guy, very similar to Bill, and again, the reason I'm thinking this is in fact his spirit animal, you can see that he's not only beating this drum with one handle, or with one hand, he beats it with both hands. Much like Bill beats the drum of Farm Rescue. Tremendously passionate about the organization, will do anything he can, and just tireless in his effort to spread the good word about Farm Rescue. But more importantly, what this spirit animal is known for is unlimited energy and endurance. And what I've seen in working with Bill as a board member for many years, just that amount of energy is so impressive. And just when you think he should run out of energy, you just keep hearing that banging of that drum. And it is so fun to work with him, and it has been one of the most pleasurable experiences of my life. So thank you for everything you've done. But before you come up, back to YouTube. So I'm looking at YouTube, and they happen to have some videos, and there's some homemade videos, and I thought, wow, let me see if I can augment the presentation with some of the content of that. And on one of the videos, this bunny was floating across a part of an inner city, and there were some people looking and working, and he floated across a basketball court, and then he kept going through a construction site, and the guy looked up, and he said, damn, that bunny keep going and going. And at that point, I knew this is Bill's spirit animal. So with that in mind, on behalf of, I guess, only myself, I would like to present this to Bill and to see if he can find a better answer. Along with this fancy display case. And as I wrap things up, I would again, on behalf of Bremer, like to thank Farm Rescue and all that make its mission possible. Good night, and keep doing good. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Kyle, for that wonderful analysis of a spirit animal. I've never thought of it that way, but I will say that's pretty accurate there for Farm Rescue. And many people, sponsors and so on, told me from the early years, they said, Bill, when you first came in with this idea of Farm Rescue and should we sponsor it, they said, you know, we didn't know if it was going to work, but you were so passionate about it and you kept at it. And he says, you know, we joined on as a sponsor. We knew it was going to succeed because if any of your staff or volunteers had half the passion that you did, it would be successful. And so I also thank our volunteers and our staff for the same. You know, I'd like to think the organization replicates. You set an example in leadership, and that has happened. Our staff beats the drum tirelessly. works long hours, and our volunteers do also. So round of applause to all of them also for being the Energizer Bunny. Kyle, we may need to put that, I was going to say I'm going to take it home and put it on a shelf at home, and I just might, but we may get another one and put it in our office there for the employees and volunteers. So speaking about the volunteers, we've had 3 volunteers that have passed on this week. And I would like to give a memorial tribute to them. Do we have it on one of the screens here, Jay? Can you put up, do we have the volunteers? Is there pictures of them at all? Okay, so we have, first, I just didn't know who was up first. So we have Joe Deflison, who passed away this year. He is a wonderful volunteer from the Oaks, North Dakota area. Some of his family are here. Could you please stand up? Joe was one of the founding volunteers. He was at the very first case we did in Leffer, North Dakota in 2006, and he helped at several cases. And there's a little bit on the screen you can read about Joe, but always very supportive of Farm Rescue. He would always come to our events. He would help us at farm shows, run the equipment and such. So again, just in loving memory of Joe Deflison, we miss you and thank you for your service. And next we have Charlie Hardy. Could we go back to the picture there of Charlie Hardy? So we have Charlie Hardy, and his widow is here, Joan Hardy. Could you stand up, please? Or the entire family is all here? Okay, so Joan. So Charlie Hardy, many people knew Charlie as, shall we say, the John Deere man. He loved John Deere's and farmed for many years down by the Wahpeton area, Breckenridge there, a very successful farmer. And he was green, his blood was green. He loved John Deere. All he bought was John Deere. He even has a museum of old John Deere tractors from his early days of farming. It's called Green Acres. And Charlie, he was so passionate about Farm Rescue. He wanted to help at all the cases. He just wanted to be involved. It was a perfect fit. He went to all the farm shows. He even used his old tractors from the museum. He took them out and took them to other states, to Iowa, to South Dakota, to do tractor rides. And he made a banner that went into a hitch on the back of the tractors, a big one, so he could drive down the roads and basically advertise Farm Rescue for free. He just wanted to help the organization and help other farmers. God bless him. And just a wonderful, wonderful man. I enjoyed working with him, and we miss you, Charlie, and may God bless you also. And Joan, thank you for being supportive of Charlie's efforts and volunteerism at Farm Rescue. I know he was away for many weeks at a time, and that you always supported what Charlie did. Thank you, Joan. And then next we have Smokey Wright. So Smokey is a volunteer for many years also. Smokey Wright from really the West Hope area, North Dakota, but lived in Minot for several years. And Smokey, what we would call him is he had a phrase that was coined that we gave him, the most colorful character at Farm Rescue. And we say that in a good way. He was just, cut of a certain cloth, that he was a very unique individual, and also, farmed for many years himself. He also, worked at times even at the Minot Air Force Base. He was a welder. He worked out in the oil patch years ago, even in western North Dakota. He did things up in Alaska and other parts of the United States. He worked a lot of places, had a lot of stories. He always loved telling stories. I believe it was in 2009, him and I went on a planting spree here. We took one unit, one tractor, and one planter and started by the Iowa border and worked our way up the Red River Valley, zigzagging back and forth into South Dakota, Minnesota, all the way up to the Canadian border, quite literally. And Smokey and I, pretty much single-handedly. We had a couple of volunteer pitch in a few days here and there, but single-handedly complete 14 farms. I would drive the equipment at night, Smokey would drive it during the day, but you couldn't keep him out of the equipment. I'd tell him to go home and sleep for, you know, or go back to the hotel, or actually we were using an RV. We were just sleeping in an RV farm rescue, had a pole behind. But he would only sleep a few hours and he'd be right back, ready to go in that tractor again. And he always had interesting stories and just a humble, good man. There's some pictures of him. I clearly remember where all those pictures were taken. I took those pictures of Smokey when him and I were working. And we'll miss Smokey greatly. Vera Wright is his wife, and she couldn't make it here tonight from the Minot area. God bless you, Smokey, and thank you for your service. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Levi at this point, and Levi is going to give recognition to our volunteers. We have a special section, like I said, for that. We couldn't accomplish this without our volunteers, and so Levi is going to handle that, and we also have a volunteer video to give recognition to our volunteers. Thank you, Levi.
Yes, thank you, volunteers. Thank you. Fitting, fitting. This represents, like Bill was saying, you know, he sets the tone, leadership sets the tone, and we definitely follow in his footsteps and in the leadership behind the board. I thank you as volunteers. You know, this year started out like a normal year. You know, this is our 12th year. However, mid-year it started to change. Things started to speed up quite a bit. With the drought out in western part of our states, that has really put an extra pressure on a lot of volunteers, and we have really stepped up to the plate, and you as volunteers have done that. We've asked some of you to come out, you know, 5, 6, 7 times. Some guys are coming out, you know, over the last several weeks, months, and they've been coming out every week, every other week, and guys have been putting in several weeks. So I'm very, very grateful for all you guys putting in the hard work. Especially you have been part of Operation Haylift with your CDL. If any of you are interested in getting your CDL medical card, boy, we could really use it. I tell you, that is a huge, huge plus. In the fall, every year, no matter what, whether we have a drought, to have your CDL allows you to be able to run the combines and then haul them, be able to haul the heads, be able to haul our trucks around. So in the fall, it's a premium. So if any of you have ever thought about getting your CDL, please talk to Bill, anyone else in leadership. We can try to work with you if you're in the Fargo area to get a truck in to do your testing. You got to go through your permit and all that, but it's not that big. If you've been driving truck all your life, you sure can do it, and we would be very, very grateful. I'd like to honor all of you guys as volunteers. If I could ask each one of you, if you volunteered this year for Farm Rescue, could you please stand up? Please, everyone, rise up. Operation Haylift this spring, baling, combining, any of the stuff, helping out with the parades. I honor you. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. You see, ladies and gentlemen, these are the hands and feet of Jesus. These are the people who are out there making it happen. Without them, we don't turn a wheel. I honor and respect all of you. God bless. Thank you.
You know, it's probably one of the hardest things to define is really outside of leadership. What is it that really fundamentally makes the wheels go around when it comes to farm rescue? Because without the leadership and the drive and the motivation and the tireless work from the office staff, it wouldn't happen. If it wasn't for the volunteers from near and from far, we have had people just absolutely wholeheartedly give themselves and their time and be separated from their families from all over the country, from right here in North Dakota, from all the way down in California, down in Florida, Alaska. We've had rocket scientists, we've had truck drivers, construction workers, highway patrolmen. It would be interesting to find all the different job fields and career paths to be listed right along with all of our volunteers. It is an amazing group of people that continue to reach out, because without the volunteers, the wheels don't go round. The funding that is brought in enables us then to better utilize all of our assets. Our volunteers are one of our biggest assets that is tough to quantify when we talk about putting on the books. And the last leg of the triad, as I call it, with Farm Rescue, and we've spent a little time, but really the sponsorships. And if you talk about dollars, it's difficult to make a farm operate just with the dollars. And if you think about trying to manage a group of people moving from area to area, hauling this equipment across 5 different states, and then being able to house the volunteers and feed the volunteers, put fuel in the equipment, insure the equipment and all of that, it takes just an unbelievable amount of planning and everything to make it all come together. But without one of those legs of the triad of Farm Rescue, none of it operates. So it truly is an amazement between the leadership, all of the volunteers, and all of the sponsors. It all comes together to do what Farm Rescue is. And for a big piece of that, again, we say thank you to our volunteers, and we have a video that's put together to help, I think, say thank you, because to me, thank you isn't enough. But again, I appreciate everything every single person who has stepped forward does. So let's go ahead with the video.
My name is Clay Robertson. I grew up in East Tennessee on a small farm where we raised wheat, corn, hay, had cattle, and spent a lot of time in the tobacco patch.
I'm from Morristown, Tennessee, eastern part of the state. I'm from the farm, a very small upland farm. We did some of everything.
I'm a NASA engineer at the Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville, Alabama, and I'm right now helping to design the vehicle that will replace the space shuttle, which was retired in 2011. So this is a good way to give back, and it also gives me a break from what I'm doing there, and in some cases it is get that warm feeling of giving back.
Farm Rescue to me was a brand new program.
My dad is with me this year, Bill Robertson from Morristown, Tennessee, and he came with me because he's getting older and he wanted to be a part of this, and I wanted him to come and be a part of this with me.
The way he described this really intrigued me, and I was quite interested in coming up here to do this.
To try to help the family farm and keep the farm going for those who are in need is certainly worthwhile, and I would recommend being a volunteer to anyone.
I'm Andy Wittenberg, grew up as a farm boy back in Iowa. Am now a pastor out in Oregon. Have been with Farm Rescue since 2010, and just found it on the internet. Knew that I loved to do that kind of thing. Great cause. Came back and been having fun ever since. 2 things basically. I just plain flat out enjoy doing the work. I enjoy farming. There's an adrenaline that goes with, especially with harvest, and I enjoy that. And of course the other thing is it just feels so good to help out people. Everybody's here volunteering. Everybody just has a sweet, sweet, great attitude, and staff does as well. And it's just fun to work with these people. It just feeds your soul, literally. It just gives you that warm feeling that yes, you have done something good for somebody else, and just we get as much out of it as the farmers, as far as I'm concerned.
My name is Pete Giambattista from North Carolina.
My name is Pete Giambattista. They gave me the nickname Repeat. Got the same name. I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina also.
A friend of ours worked with Bill Gross, flew with him with UPS, and he told us about Farm Rescue and what the good things they do to the farmers in need, so we decided we'd come out and volunteer this year.
I really wanted to do it. Haven't done anything this scale before. I was really looking forward to it.
This farmer that we met, Mr. Naden, has been more than gracious to show us how to work his equipment, and been very patient with a couple of boys from North Carolina who'd never ran tractors or combines before, so we've learned a lot. We really enjoyed ourselves.
found out he had cancer whenever I first got here, I was excited to help him. I was pleased to help him. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I actually can help in a way instead of just being down south where we don't have all of this. We can also come on the farm and actually help his farm and his family.
He'll always remember this. I'll always remember this.
We have lots of life memories. I'll always remember it. I'm sure he always will too.
And this is great. This is cool. I'm just having a ball.
I'm Gene Spitzke. I live on a farm by Keith. And my neighbor Warren went to Ag Expo show in Minot in 2007. And Farm Rescue had a booth there and heard the story of Farm Rescue. And I told Warren, I think I'm gonna sign up for a couple of weeks. Well, I said, if you do, I will. Well, those couple of weeks turned into quite a few years. So it's been a wonderful experience just being a part of Farm Rescue. It's an organization that's one of a kind. I mean, we leave with such a good feeling, and it's worth it. It's worth it all. It's great. You'll get to meet wonderful people that are hurting. You'll be doing something that's rewarding. You'll meet guys you work with from all over the U.S., basically. There's people like that you'd never meet, and probably one of the best experiences I had in my life, and I'll never regret that I volunteered for Farm Rescue. I'd do it all over again if I had a chance.
My name's Dan Murphy from El Lago, Texas, just south of Houston, Texas. We're right between Houston and Galveston, so a little ways from home.
I'm Debbie Murphy. I'm from El Lago, Texas, and I'm up here with my husband volunteering for Farm Rescue.
Learned about Farm Rescue about 5 years ago in a local paper over in Graceville, Minnesota, and I looked at that and I said, well, that looks like a lot of fun. What a way to get out here and enjoy the country and meet the people.
He's talked about how wonderful this is, and he was truthful about how great this is. This is just an incredible experience.
I really feel my wife and I have actually grown closer with this. What a neat way to volunteer. I highly encourage husbands and wives to do this together, and you talk about bonding. We've been married 31 years, and I think we've gotten more bonding out of this than we did raising the kids and everything else. So we're just having a blast, and I'm so glad she's with me.
20 years ago, probably wouldn't have had as much fun, but when it got tense, trying to find a location, the roads, the weather has not been easy, but we actually were a pretty good team.
Just being out here and enjoying the camaraderie and the scenery. I mean, this is God's country out here. You really get to see it. And just a big thanks to my wife for tagging along on this trip. It's been one of the better vacations we've had in a long time.
I think it's been mentioned a couple of times about unique experiences for volunteers, and I'll share one short story. One of my first trips out to do some filming after I had left as a journalist, had left KX and was out with my smaller equipment and things like that, but we're near Mercer, North Dakota, and there's a husband and a wife, and their kids were out volunteering. And after, this was in the spring of the year, it was about May or so, and after about 3 or 4 hours, the little kids running around and all of this stuff, and Dad was out in the planter, and they were resetting some of the different pieces on the planter, and kids come running up, and the wife comes running up, and now it wasn't just resetting pieces on the planter, but it was removing all the ticks off the kids. They'd gotten into the tall grass, and I don't think they had been in North Dakota tall grass in the spring before, so we've got a whole new learning lesson on there. The final count on the one little girl, I think it was 28. And I didn't say that to make your skin crawl, I promise. But thank you. I truly do mean that to each and every person that has come out to volunteer. I do want to say thank you to Dakota Sound for the audio and video tonight. I'd kind of bypassed at the very beginning of the night. They always do a fantastic job for us here at the banquet. And along with that, yes. And then for Matheson's in Fargo and Sign Design as well for the signage and all the different literature that you see on your tables for the event tonight. A big thank you to them as well. Again, each piece of this really makes the event and the year possible for us. So a big thank you. To that, I think for now we're going to say we're going to head into intermission and get up, stretch your legs, and we will be back. And of course, we're going to hear more from Brianna during our break.
All right, so before I do my last song, I would just like to thank you guys for having me here tonight. It was super cool being able to be a part of this event. This is Jolene. Jolene, 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 I'm begging of you, please don't take my man. Jolene, 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 please don't take him just because you can. Your beauty is beyond compare with flaming locks of vibrant hair, with ivory skin and eyes of emerald green. Your smile is like a breath of spring, your voice is soft like summer rain, and I cannot compete with you, Jolene. I can easily understand how you could easily take my man. You don't know what it means to me, Jolene. Jolene, 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 I'm begging of you, please don't take my man. Jolene, 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 please don't take him just because you can. You could have your just a man, but I can never love again. You don't know what he means to me, Jolene. I had to have this talk with you. My happiness depends on you, and whatever you decide to do, Jolene. Jolene, 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 I'm begging of you, please don't take my man. Jolene, 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 please don't take him even though you can. Thank you.
As everyone's making their way back to their seats here, I'm gonna pull an audible on the night simply because there was a tremendous amount of work that went into this next piece. You see, back in 2011, I live in Minot. I live in the valley in Minot. Back in 2011, my house was one of many, many, many that was destroyed by the flood. Out of that, I took a phone call from one of the Minot natives that was watching the live feed that we were airing on our flood coverage. At 1 o'clock in the morning, I took a phone call from Moscow, Russia, and it was Josh Duhamel on the other end. He was out for his premiere of Transformers. Josh Duhamel, Minot native, he's been in a lot of different Transformers and Win a Tate with Tad Hamilton and many, many other numerous big movies in Hollywood. But that's where I first really developed a professional relationship with Josh, and we had collaborated on a couple of projects. Well, over the last couple of years, I'd spent a significant amount of time trying to get Josh to North Dakota while Farm Rescue was actually in the field working. That is almost impossible to get a Hollywood actor on a farmer schedule. But luckily this last year, his then wife Fergie was performing at the North Dakota State Fair. So I said, aha, I know he's going to be here right around the time of harvest. It was a hot summer. It was going to be an early harvest for winter wheat. And that was about it. And luckily, just south of Minot, things came together. So after 2 years of planning, we got Hollywood A-lister out to introduce him to Farm Rescue. See, he has a little bit of history with agriculture, and we wanted to bring a little bit of those farm roots back to Hollywood and hopefully plant a seed that we can get to grow over time. My good friend Dan Erdman was there and put together a tremendous video, and let's go ahead and take a look at what we got.
So as a teenager and stuff, did you help your grandpa, or was it mostly as just a young kid? Or
it's been since I was a kid at my grandpa's farm. Yep. Farmed the same plot of land his whole life. Was born there.
Really?
Yeah,
yep,
born there.
Born right there.
Born there and farmed it his whole life until he was about 83, 84 years old.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Wow. And then
wow. Isn't that something? The tenacity of farmers. Oh. They just hang on, hang on, hang on.
He's the toughest, most resourceful dude I ever met in my life. I'm not kidding you. The technology on these things is a little bit better than it was back then.
Just a little.
Look at that.
Boom, boom.
Look at you.
Auto steer.
And now what? It just stays on the...
Yeah, it automatically. There's a satellite up top there, and it's just watching all 26 different satellites, and it's
really
perfectly on.
It knows right here.
It knows exactly where. Like now you can see it's just going to cut right on the edge.
You can basically take a nap in this thing now, can't you?
Yes, you can.
We do have a fully conditioned cab with a little keg tapper down here.
Keg tapper, yeah, right.
And a microwave and a fully operational TV.
Well, there is
you can't
fridge.
see it on camera.
There's a fridge.
There's a fridge.
Right here. I kid you
We got
not.
satellite in this thing.
We do have satellite. It
We
don't
put the
pick
game
up
on?
channels. Exactly.
So it just peels it right off there.
It does.
It's just fantastic. The technology's
I know, isn't that amazing? It
Let me
comes
see that
in.
thing.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Imagine back in the day when they had to do this. I mean, back when I'd be at the farm with my grandpa. It was a much smaller operation, you know. It must have taken them 10 times as long to harvest a crop.
And so that, that's part of the game. As it becomes more efficient, you do more acres because it's all based on man hours.
Yeah.
You instead of working 160 acres your entire life, everything to support your family of 10, 12, now, you're going to do 2,000, 3,000 acres.
So you don't have to have 10 kids anymore.
Well, that's true. You don't, because you don't need a cheap labor
I mean,
force.
that would be nice.
That's exactly right.
So tell me a little bit about Farm Rescue, what you guys do.
You bet. Well, we started 11 years ago. We've helped over 430 farm families since the inception. We plant, we hay, and we harvest crops free of charge. So we're a handout, not a handout. So we help try to bridge crisis in family farming operations. And by helping these family farmers, that in turn helps the rural communities.
So you guys are kind of the stopgap until they can get back up and get healthy again.
Yeah, exactly.
You go from operation to operation helping different farmsteads in your spare time as a volunteer.
Yep.
It's amazing work, man. So it's fully funded how? Do you guys, is it sponsors and volunteers?
And then foundations, grants, personal donations. But the predominant amount is through business sponsorships.
And is it local businesses? Is it corporations?
North Dakota, a lot of North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Montana, Iowa, Nebraska. You bet. It's mostly our area. And then of course you got the big ones like ADM, Cargill, nationwide companies. But yes, it's predominantly for local.
It's amazing, it's something that I think we all overlook and I think we take for granted these bodies that we need.
At work.
I try to thank God for it every day, just the fact that I can get up and walk around. And when you can't do that, and how that affects your family, how that affects everyone around you. It's an amazing program. So what did they do? What did people do before Farm Rescue?
Well, neighbors, and sometimes the crop wouldn't get harvested.
Really?
Planted. I mean,
That's devastating.
It is.
Growing up in rural North Dakota, it isn't until you move away until you really realize how valuable and how important farming, farmers, agriculture in general is. And for me to be able to come back, I really appreciate it that much more now than I ever did. And so these communities thrive on farmers and their families. And, you know, once these guys or somebody gets injured, it takes a real toll on not only the family, but the community. And that's one of my favorite things about North Dakota, honestly. I love the fact that you can drive for 15, 20 miles until you see the next house. That's what I miss the most about it, really. The North Dakota kid in me has never left. I still have to find a place. Unfortunately for me, it took me moving away to really appreciate it. But, you know, it's always going to be home.
We'll go up on the way back, and I'll kind of go over everything again. When we get to the back, I'll set it over to you and let you play.
I'm going to drive this thing?
Absolutely.
All right.
We want to have you come all the way out and not do that.
All right.
We want you to have fun.
So, what now?
All right, so push the throttle ahead.
Okay.
It's all on here. Just grab it, slide it ahead a little bit, and then hit number 2 up here.
Okay.
Hit number 2 and let go of the wheel. Hit it again. Okay, let go of the wheel. There we go. Now, exactly.
Look, Mom, no hands! No hands!
That's right. There we go.
Where are we at? Where's the miles per hour?
Right up here. All right.
Oh, okay.
RPM there, miles per hour there. You bet. This feels about right.
Yeah, we're getting a nice yield here. We're at
44.
I was going to tell you that. It's a little damp. We should probably maybe raise the auger. The technology is unbelievable.
It is. Oh, it is. It is. I mean, you're sitting on about $500,000 right here.
Can you imagine what the farmers back in like 1907 would have thought of all this?
Isn't that amazing? It is.
I should get one of these. Cruise down the street and all that.
Cruise down Sunset Boulevard. Yes. There you go.
You know, this would just be a normal afternoon on Sunset Boulevard. What's skipping?
No, just a little bit over there. But
oh.
That is interesting.
I'm offline.
Yeah.
I'm fired.
The internet connection dropped. We're offline. That's fine. We'll just turn around. So grab the wheel and then hit number 1. Perfect. Then put your hand on number 2, your thumb, so you're ready. Go a little bit farther ahead, and now hit number 2. Let go of the wheel, hit 2. There we go. Let it do its thing. It'll pull it over.
Look at that.
Isn't that amazing? Well, this was a lot of fun.
This was a lot of fun. Levi, my man, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead and pull it all the way back.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, we're still moving.
Oh, my gosh. All right, then just click on that, flip it up.
All right. Should I turn it off?
Turn it off. You bet. You bet.
All right. We did it!
Josh was a great sport. We had him for all of about an hour and a half that day. So 2 years worth of work boiled down to get him out there for an hour and a half. But no, he was a great guy, and I'm hoping that we planted a very important seed that will continue to grow over the years. So big thank you to Dan and the rest of the staff. Now, I could be wrong, but Lynn, has the smile receded from your face from when you guys were out taking pictures with Josh? No, it's still there? Oh, it's Christmas cards with Josh. So that's what you're going to see from Lynn and some of the other folks. But no, he was great to have him out there. Now, I wanted to bring up one more piece before we get to some of the individual stories from the farmers. We had an opportunity a couple of years ago, as I mentioned at the beginning of the night. Mr. Joe Schmidt had stepped forward and had been talking with Bill and he had written this song about farming and really kind of boiled down to what Farm Rescue really revolves around. And he donated the song itself to Farm Rescue called My Field of Dreams. I had the opportunity to get on on board on some of the production aspects as we identified that it needed a video if we were going to try to launch My Field of Dreams. Joe was gracious enough to donate the proceeds from My Field of Dreams. So it is out on iTunes, and it is on our website as well. You can find it on YouTube, but after a lot of hours of shooting and chasing Joe around in the field with a camera, this was my little contribution, and Joe's generosity and his family's generosity to Farm Rescue from a couple of seasons ago, but certainly worth one repeating, because I'm proud of it, Joe. I know you are. So, so let's go ahead and take a look at My Field of Dreams.
Coming up, I climb in my old truck. I'm headed to the farm. There's a whole lot of ground that I need to plow, so I'd better get a start. There's lots of people depending on me, and watching it grow, it makes my heart sing. Through the windshield of my tractor, my mind drifts away, and I can hear the music in me as the band begins to play. And everybody's watching as I start to sing, and dirt and rock and dust is all they ever see, 'cause they don't know this is my field of dreams. Now the sun's going down and all the fields are plowed. I'm pretty tired. I'm on my way home, supper's waiting on the stove. Well, I'm the luckiest man alive. Got my family waiting on me, with a house full of love, no place I'd rather be. Through the windshield of my tractor, my mind drifts away, and I can hear the music in me as the band begins to play. And everybody's watching as I start to sing, and dirt and rock and dust is all they ever see, 'cause they don't know this is my field of dreams. Now it don't matter if I ever leave this farm, 'cause all the seeds I've sown, they grow right here in my heart. Through the windshield of my tractor, my mind drifts away, and I can hear the music in me as the band begins to play. And everybody's watching as I start to sing, and dirt and rock and dust is all they ever see, 'cause they don't know, yeah, they don't know this is my field of dreams.
So you can also check those out on our website as well, My Field of Dreams. And of course, as he had so graciously done, had donated the proceeds from that song to Farm Rescue. Now, as I mentioned before, I kind of went through one little incident in 2011 that kind of gave me a little bit of perspective on how difficult it can be to ask for help. As I'd mentioned prior, my home was in the 2011 flood in Minot, and yes, even with extreme devastation and still being in good health, it was extraordinarily difficult to say I couldn't do it on my own. And fundamentally, as all of the years that I have gone through my time with Farm Rescue, that is got to be one of the most humbling acts that a person can kind of come to grips with, is having to ask for help that I can't do it on my own. And for a lot of farm families, that is really the question that it comes down to, is yes, I can't do it on my own, and I am going to have to ask for help. But thankfully, for a lot of folks, they do come to terms with that, and if not, a lot of the neighbors or family do make that realization and help them come to that understanding, and then we get to have that experience of coming out and assisting a farm family that does need that stopgap, that bridge. Tonight we're going to hear from a few of those farm families or individuals that we came out to help. And we'll start off the evening with a gentleman from Braddock, North Dakota, that we came out to help harvest this year through, while he was battling cancer, Mr. Mark Naden. Mark? See, as a journalist, I would have had an enunciation guide. It's Naden, Mark Naden.
Well, the Norwegian pronunciation would be Naden. But I want to thank Sean for introducing and the honor to be here tonight. As I share, I am one of the farmers blessed to have received the gift of help from Farm Rescue. First, I want to thank Bill Gross and Marcella Gross, Marcel, for your generosity and appreciation for farmers and ranchers and all those who dedicate their lives to these industries. Your commitment and selfless gifts has not only brought peace of mind and joy to me and my family, but over 500 farmers and ranchers, their families, communities. Thank you for the Farm Rescue staff, Carol, David, Lynn, Dan, Jennifer, Kristen, and to all the many sponsors who make the mission of Farm Rescue possible. I cannot thank enough the volunteers who came to my aid this fall in harvesting my crop. After learning my cancer has returned, there were 2 high school boys who came out with their dads to help, giving up their last days of summer to endure the harvest work. Each of these volunteers came from vastly different walks of life, yet they are united by the same goals, helping farmers and ranchers in times of crisis. Each year, Farm Rescue is expanding its impact, helping more and more farmers and ranchers in crisis. This year, prompted by the drought this past summer, Operation Hay Lift was created to provide hay for those most severely affected by dry conditions. But I would suggest another operation to enact, Mr. Gross. We need speech rescue. Speech rescue. Yes, there should be volunteers to give speeches for us farmers who have been helped by your organization. You send Farm Rescue volunteers to our farms and ranches to do the work, but why not give them our speeches as well? I think I can speak for all farmers and ranchers that the only speeches we ever give is to a group of cows that won't go through the gate or a broken down piece of machinery. And believe me, you don't want to hear those speeches. But since Operation Speech has not yet begun, I will do my best to give an eloquent of a speech a farmer can give. The first time Farm Rescue came to my ranch was in the spring of 2013. I was in the midst of chemotherapy treatments that were taking a toll on my physical capacity. The volunteers began seeding at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and didn't finish for the night until 2 a.m. Early the next morning, they were back at it again. Each volunteer has come as a stranger but left as family, except one volunteer, Gary Decker. Before the farm rescue volunteers started harvest this past fall, Gary arrived to deliver an RDO John Deere combine for the wheat harvest. My family and I invited Gary in for dinner. It was then my wife Tammy realized Gary was her relative. Gary's mom Doris had been one of the first people to offer her condolences and comfort to Tammy's family after her dad passed. Here was Gary, the first one on our place. The apple didn't fall far from the tree with Gary. The mission of Farm Rescue echoes the words of our good Lord. Jesus said that the harvest was abundant, but the laborers were few. While God's words refers to our souls, Farm Rescue enacts his words on a human level, bringing laborers to the abundant harvest that lack adequate help. The laborers are the good Samaritans who take the yoke from the farmers and ranchers' shoulders, giving rest to the weary. To you volunteers, every bushel of wheat you harvested this past fall brought 40 or 52 loaves of daily bread to the tables across our nation. Many of you likely harvested thousands of bushels of wheat, feeding thousands of people every day. This is why I say a simple little prayer in the morning. Lord, let me be your hand. Lord, let me feed your flock. Then I go about the day feeding the world. I sometimes add another prayer, which I ask you to join me now. Please bow your heads. Oh Lord, if it wouldn't be too much trouble, RDO has these nice John Deere brand new combines, four-wheel drive tractors, and Mack trucks. Could you see if Bremer Bank would loan us the money? Nothing but the best for you, O Lord. Amen. Thank you. Thank you. And I want to remind everybody to get to my ranch. When you see Jesus, turn towards Jesus. I don't know if you read the article in the Egg Wheat, but that'll explain it. Thank you.
You know, Mark mentioned something that I all too often had run into from time to time, chasing around farm rescue folks with cameras and microphones, and then knocking on doors of the farm families that the farm rescue volunteers were assisting. And it is something special to hear those stories directly from the people that are affected. Next, we turn to Gary, Minnesota for a planting case where a heart surgery case had brought us to the farm. This is David and Sarah Visser.
I have a big, tall guy that's rather shy. We had a very interesting year this year, starting out late winter. We found out David would need heart surgery, open heart surgery, which was a pretty big shock at the time. And, you know, when we go into these situations, they can sometimes feel overwhelming, but in our case, we turned to God, and yet again, He's never failed us, and He never will. And it was such a busy spring. We went through a blur, it seems like. I mean, we still look back trying to piece back, how did we do all this, you know? And there's only one answer. It was God getting us through it. But one of the tools he used was farm rescue. And we really, neither of us, I don't think, knew what to expect. We just assumed it was some big tractors decorated up with really pretty flags, and they looked impressive. But the most impressive thing that I can remember about it all was the time, the encouragement, and I was shocked and so pleased when a bunch of the volunteers, we'd brought some dinner out, and they took the time to pray with us more than once over the situation, over the meal, and that alone was really, you know, it was encouraging, it was refreshing and reassuring. And what was more than that, we have 7 children, and in this world and society today, raising kids it's a struggle, it's a fight. You could have the desire to want to go hide away because most of what you see is so negative, especially when you're trying to raise them to know the Lord. But when they saw all these men coming here, you know, and you know, of course little kids are impressed with all this machinery and the big tractors, and I mean, it was impressive. I was impressed. I was taking pictures. But what was more impressive was they took the time to pray, and our kids witnessed that. That was a huge, huge thing for us. It's just, that's not an everyday thing. It's a sad thing to say, but it's not. And for them to see grown men, you know, mature men, going out there helping, but also not afraid. You know, even as Christians, so many of us are pretty, we're a little bit leery about speaking out. And yet God says, if you don't know me, I won't know you when the time comes, when you meet me. And so a lot of times we don't speak out. We're not vocal about our faith, and that's a bad thing. That's not what God has called us to do. He's called us to be lights. And the volunteers, not only did they give of their time and their labor, they gave of their faith. They shared their faith, and that was a big thing for us as parents and for our children to be able to witness that. And I really want to thank you for that.
Well, I'll try to make it a little shorter here too. Last time I did this speech was about 12 years ago when we got married. We had to explain, we dated for a couple months, and then we got married, and at that, I did a speech and she did one. I thought maybe she'd bring up about that you guys didn't have the red tractors because she was raised in a farm with International, and I was a John Deere. My dad, he had a heart attack in '93. He had dairy cattle, so if it was about that time, I'd say, one thing you guys got to do is help us milk cows, but you're very fortunate we didn't have them anymore. I grew up when my dad had a heart attack that I was old enough that I could handle it myself. I helped out. So I was in that framework of life that I'm independent. I have to do it myself. During a duration, I found out that I had a mild case of a murmur. I thought, nothing wrong with it. I had 2 older sisters that had it for 20-some years. I didn't think nothing's going to happen. Well, then all of a sudden, it came back that I had a couple dizzy spells. Well, and then I found out that it went from mild to severe. And they said, well, you got to deal with this within a year or your heart's going to get enlarged and you're going to die from this. So then I had a high school teacher, or elementary teacher. I heard of farm rescue, but I never, you know, it was the advertising, there wasn't a lot of, what's the word I'm thinking of? It wasn't, it was known but not well known. And you guys done a very great job of making yourself more known. I've seen more billboards and more signs and more of that, the help of you're doing for other people. But I was in still the frame of mind, I got to be independent. And that was one thing I had to humble myself with. But I had a teacher, it was my 6th grade teacher, that said, well, he knew what's going on, and he had COPD bad. And he said, well, let me do some looking. So he's the one literally found out about, and did on research on the internet. Then he approached my dad, because he was part of the Legion, and the Lions and them. And then my dad's the one that went further on, because I thought, no, they're not going to accept me. A lot of us just need to do is ask a hand for help. And that's what we need to do. And when my dad sent his information, and I think Carol's the one I called, and then here I was a candidate, I was still independent a little bit. But when they were able to come, we were able to put the wheat, barley, and corn in. And we don't have a lot of acres, but it's about 1,000 acres. But those guys came out there, and it was very impressive with them. And, oh, I got to think the names though, if I mess up. Don't give me on that, Jerry. And Mark was Bill and Clay, I think Robertson was one of the 2 guys I remember. And it was Mark, I think 2 Marks and a Dave. And then the second day it was Jerry, Jeff. Oh, I might get this one, don't I?
It was a blur.
When they came on and helped out, it was very nice and great blessing to meet great people like you guys. And I am very thankful for what you guys done for me and that stuff and help. And even like Mark, when he still got a hold of me, how did everything go? Did everything go good? I went in, and it was right after that, I went in and that stuff, we had the surgery done. And I was surprised when the surgery happened. And I was shaking, looking at the nurse after surgery, and she said, we want you to stand. And I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me. And this is about 3-4 hours after surgery. And I had open heart surgery, and she's like, we want you to stand. I said, you better have 2 people on each side of me to catch me, because I ain't going to be able to do this. Well, I was able to do it for 30 seconds, but I was surprised how that happened and how quick it was. And yeah, I can say that after my 6-week checkup, that they don't want to see me for a whole year now, that everything's going great. And I very much thank your organization for helping that stuff and what you did and all the good and kind people that are part of that. I thank you.
And a serious illness seems to be a common occurrence for many of our folks that reach out to us or we reach out to them. But of course, those injuries too are a major piece. And this next case took us out to Ypsilanti for a broken neck for spring planting. This is Gary Marks.
Thank you. Yeah, there's quite a few that have been out around Ypsilanti that Farm Rescue has helped, and I happen to be one that I've had them twice. 6 years ago, I fell off a step ladder and fell on my butt, and I thought, well, I'm probably okay, but I realized that my left leg had folded under me, broke my femur in 2 places. And so I had to have surgery done to get that back together, and planting season was coming, and somebody said I should go talk to Farm Rescue, and they come and helped me out and planted my whole crop. And lo and behold, last April 10th, I was driving in Jamestown, going to turn on the stoplight intersection just east of the Buffalo, and a guy hit me, run a red light, and hit me 40-mile-an-hour broadside. And I must have been out for a little while, but when I started waking up, I didn't feel, I almost like my life was going away from me. And I said, Lord, am I coming home? And then I brightened up some more, and the next thing I knew, a policeman said he would hold my head up because I couldn't get my head straight. He said, I think you fractured your neck. And I said, oh, great, seating time's coming. And so then they rushed me to Fargo and did more tests on me and stuff. they didn't want to do surgery because it was the second vertebrae down from your brain, which is very tricky. The doctor said, you know, even later when I went in for a checkup, he said if I'd have done that surgery, you could have died on the operating table because your spinal cord is so close to that bone, and it was actually broken in 2 pieces. And, you know, it was part of the bone that holds your head up straight. That's why I couldn't hold my head up. And so then anyway, Farm Rescue came again. And I tell you, that is a wonderful feeling, Bill, when you see that big green machinery coming down the road. And I'm standing in my living room window watching it come. And it was almost dark that night. It was on a Sunday night, wasn't it, Linda? And they went out and seeded on and started on the first quarter that night, after dark even. This crew was so enthusiastic, and they were so good to me, and fun guys to be around. That's what I've, even 6 years ago and then to this year too, it was just so amazing how great these guys are and how much they want to help. And, you know, a lot of them have never been in tractors or combines before, but they get their training quickly and they catch on fast and they do a good job. And so I am truthfully grateful to Farm Rescue and to our Lord for giving me another chance. And, you know, I wondered, you know, what do I have to do? And I guess it's just to have a testimony that God saved me again. And I'm really thankful for it. So thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Our next family is from Fredonia. We went out for a hang case for a broken pelvis and a blood clot. This is Don Lager.
Well, first off, I would just wanted to say hats off to everybody who put this program together tonight. It was entertaining and it's been really informative. And our deal started on August the 7th, and my wife was painting, and porch of our house is flat roof, and she tripped on the roofing and fell off and landed on her right side and shattered the pelvis on the right side and broke the left side. And well, all she wanted to do was get into the house. And I tried to help her, and she was in a lot of pain. So we called 911, and they took her to Jamestown, the local ambulance. And they said there was nothing they could do, and there was no other doctor than one Anthony Brown here in Fargo. And so they brought her over to the new hospital in Sanford, and they kept her pain under control, basically. That was on a Monday, and they couldn't do surgery until Wednesday when he had time. And so the surgery went well, and she's got on the right side has a plate and screws, and the left side they did nothing with that. They said that would heal on its own. And about a week later, then she had a blood clot because of the injury, so they put a filter in for that. So she was in the hospital for 16 days, and then they took her to Sanford Rehab, and she was there for about a week, and then she was able to come home, and all her checkups have really been positive. And so when we called, my son works for RDO in Castleton, and he got a hold of Farm Rescue, and Carol was the one who had talked to us, and everybody was so cooperative. And I was hoping Dave Zimmer was our volunteer, and I was really hoping that he would be here tonight. I always said when he was there, the only thing bigger than his heart is his smile. I think that guy smiles in his sleep. But he was you know, concerned about the whole works, and I'm just thankful for you know, family and friends, and for Farm Rescue for how they helped us out, and most of all for the Lord healing Tam as they have, because the doctors figured it would, take till Thanksgiving that she could give up the walker, and she was able to go with a cane. She still is, but it's healing faster than what they had thought. So we're just thankful for that, and thank Farm Rescue for what you've done for us.
Now, certainly getting up in front of a large group of people isn't the easiest thing to do. And for some folks, it even requires being a little bit under the radar for even their family members. So this next case takes us out to Dickey, North Dakota for a spring planting case where hernia surgery had brought us out. Willie Dunn.
Geez, a lot of people here. Carol, you said there's only going to be 15 or 20 people here. Before I introduce myself and tell my story, Dan and Lynn came out to the farm, made a visit, and must have made a pretty good impression because Lynn said, we would like you to speak at our banquet. I said, I'd just as soon not. And she said, well, I had the program, and she said, we'd like to put you on. And I said, Lynn, I'd just as soon not. So we left it at that. Didn't think I was going to have to. And Carol called me a couple weeks ago, and she said, Willie, we'd really appreciate it if you would tell your story. So I said, what Farm Rescue did for me, I guess I could tell my story. To back things up, it's early spring. I live in Lemoore, and the farm is 13 miles out. And so I had the radio 1100, the flag station on. Scott Hannon was interviewing some guy from Farm Rescue. And like I say, this was early in the year, and they said they had room for about 20 more applicants. Well, I never thought nothing about that. There was nothing wrong with me. Well, time went on, and I started to get a pain in my lower abdomen. And second week, it got worse. Third week, my son, Billy Joe, and my brother-in-law, Dilo Isarbum, went around the home pasture there, a fence, and the busted wire was off, and there was a lot of getting up and down. And I got up and down many times. The last 3 or 4 times, God, I didn't think I was going to get up. It was excruciating pain, but I was too proud to ask for help. Anyway, I went home that night, and I said to my wife, there's something wrong. And I don't know what it is. I went to take a shower, and it's the first time that I felt the bulge. Well, there was a lot of cancer in her family, and right away you think the worst. I figured I had cancer. Well, I went to the doctor and went to my daughter's nurse at Essentia, and she got me in up there, and it was a hernia, so I was grateful for that. Had surgery, and the doctor said, no tractors or trucks or anything for a minimum of 6 to 8 weeks. And she said, pulling yourself up into a tractor or a truck is probably the worst things you do. She said, don't do it. Well, I went home and I said, Marcia, my wife, I said, I don't know what we're going to do. We hadn't had anything in yet. We have 140 cow-calf crop, cow to calf. My son, Billy Joe, works at Melrose from 7 until 3. Well, it's 4:30 before he gets out to the farm. There's no way he could do this. So I didn't know what I was going to do. Well, then I thought, I remembered this hearing Scott Hannon. And I didn't know how to get a hold of Farm Rescue. So I called RDO Equipment at Lisbon, and I said, I don't have the number. Can you help me? And he said, I don't have it, but I'll get it for you. And he did. And I called and got a hold of Carol, told her my predicament, and I said, I don't know if I'm eligible or not. And she said, well, it sounds like you are. So they sent the brochure out, and there's things you got to do. And she called me back 2 or 3 days later and said that I qualified, and got very emotional because what a relief off my shoulders. And pretty soon Mark shows up. Well, they had a couple days delay. We got rain and it laid, and then they finally came on a Saturday morning, going to be there in the morning. Well, they didn't get there until just before noon. Well, prior to getting to our farm, they hit a big rock, and they busted the equipment up pretty bad, and so they went out to Hay Busters, thank God for one of the sponsors, and they worked there most of the night trying to get it fixed, and with Jeff, Jerry, and Matt were there. And of course, Matt is an engineer at John Deere at Valley City where they made these, so he knew a lot about it. Well, they came to our place, and there were some things that needed fixing yet. And to show you how small a world this is, they needed some parts. And my son, Billy Joe, and brother-in-law, Deloy Sarbum, helped Farm Rescue, take this apart, and they needed some parts. So Mark says to me, do you have a John Deere dealership in Lemoore? And I said, yes, we've got a very good dealership in Lemoore. It's not RDO, but it's a good dealership. So he went in, and he gets in there, and the parts manager in Lemoore Implement is a kid that he went to grade school and high school with. Now, how small a world is that? Anyway, we had Jeff and Jerry and Matt. Jerry came all the way from Raleigh, North Carolina. Jeff from Iowa. We're standing around there, and I asked him, why do you do this? And Jeff said, well, we engineer these things and build them. It's kind of nice to come out and see how they operate. Well, anyway, they put our crop in for us, and I want to acknowledge my wife. I'm more blessed than most of you people because we went through 3 different series of people because of the rain and breakdown. So I got to meet a lot more of these guardian angels, you might say. But my wife brought meals out to them every day except for the last day. And I had that catered. Marcia, could you please stand? I try to keep her close to me because I think she makes me look good. But anyway, that first day they were there, they pulled in a little before noon, and they started on that was a short quarter right west of the farm. At 4:30, they came into the yard, and they had that quarter seeded. 60 foot of air seeder, 6.5 miles an hour, and those flags flying on the back of there, you'd have to experience. It just gives you goosebumps, and it made me cry. Well, anyway, that night, or toward the evening, I was hurting. So we were in the shop, it kind of rained, and I said, well, I have to go, I'm hurting. And that's okay, you'll go. Well, one of my biggest disappointments was when I came out the next day, everybody was gone but Matt. Never got to say goodbye or thank you to Jeff and Jerry. And it reminded me of the Lone Ranger. They came in, did their work, and they're gone. But I want to thank you. I really appreciate it. Anyway, Jerry had to leave early because his father-in-law was in the hospital in Minot. Didn't think he was going to make it. And I asked several people later, how is he doing? How is he doing? And nobody seemed to know. So several weeks later, I called Jerry. And he was in Colorado visiting his daughter. And I asked, how's your father-in-law? He says, he's fine. Well, you wouldn't believe it. He's just fine. And I said, Jerry, it's got to be, you people got to be a different breed or special breed of people to come up here and donate 2 weeks of your life away from your family, come up here and help a complete stranger. He said, Willie, you know what makes it worthwhile? And I said, no. He said, phone calls like I'm getting from you right now. So thank you guys. And the sponsors. You couldn't do this without you. So God bless you, and God bless Farm Rescue. Bill, you don't know how many times I thank you for the organization. And one of my wishes was, and I told Carol and Lynn, that someday I'd like to meet Bill Gross and personally thank him for the wonderful organization he started. God bless you, and thank you.
I've said it 100 times, and I'll say it again. One of the hardest things to do is to come to that acknowledgement in your own life that you can't do it by yourself and have to ask for help. So please, if you do know of anybody else down the road that is having a difficult time making that decision, reach out to Farm Rescue or give them a little nudge in the right direction, because certainly it is a complete understanding that it's a humbling feeling. And that's why Farm Rescue is here, though, because we know that there are times where that bridge has to be gapped. Thank you to all of the different families that are here tonight. Thank you to everyone that come up and spoke. It's certainly not easy standing in front of an entire audience, let alone a bunch of your peers, and telling your story. As I mentioned it right at the beginning of the night, every one of us can pinpoint, can remember that moment where Farm Rescue entered into your life. I know I can mine. So with that, I think it's time to turn the corner a little bit. Lynn is walking towards the front here. We have some of the different raffles and drawings that we certainly want to take care of.
So the first prize, you are drawing for a 50-inch TV.
50-inch TV.
Okay, Beth Olson. All right. Whoa, sorry. Okay, do you want to draw some more names or some more numbers?
I think you better. You're all the way up here. Let's go ahead and draw for some more big stuff. What do you say? Yeah, before we draw here, Clara, give me just a moment here. This is a special edition Henry, what is this? It's a 45 long Colt. And now it is specially engraved both on the stock and on the barrel itself, Farm Rescue. The gun was donated by Shields, and then we went through with the engraving process. Remind me, David, who did our engraving?
A&A Engraving.
A&A Engraving. Out of Rapid City, South Dakota. This is number 1 of 3 of the 45 Henry Colt, or the Henry 45 Long Colt.
Okay, you ready?
Are we ready?
Thomas Loonan.
Thomas Loonan, Loonan, from Easton, Minnesota. So congratulations to Thomas.
Do you want to
hang around here? We're gonna have her draw for some more. Now,
the first one is a trip to Hawaii.
Trip to Hawaii. Let's just stop there and draw for the trip to.
Okay, you ready?
Nice sound effects.
Don Rose of Wimbledon, North Dakota.
DAWN, first name Rose, from Wimbledon, North Dakota, need not be present to win.
The second one is a Caribbean cruise. You want to keep drawing? Okay, mix them up good in there.
Brenda Weddington.
Brenda Weddington of Clarksville, Iowa.
Brenda Weddington from Clarksville, Iowa.
All right. The next one is the John Deere riding lawnmower you saw out in the hallway.
Okay.
He works at RDO, Neil Schlepp. Yeah.
Neil Schlepp from Fargo.
The next one is an iPad, 128 gigabytes, and I do need to tell you that must be the hot gift of the season, because if you are the winner and you are here, I will have to ship it to you.
Oh.
I could not find one anywhere. So it's Howard Folks of Fargo.
Howard Folks from Fargo for the iPad.
The next thing is an iPad mini, 128 gigabyte. And
Okay.
you'll be able to take that today if you're here.
Okay, the iPad mini. Say the name again for me.
Hayford to 1.
Are you here? Scott Hayford? Hayford? All right, nice.
Hey, we got somebody that's here. All right. So I've got your name down here, Scott, and then at the end, just meet us back there.
We just let you.
All right, let's go for the $500 Walmart gift card.
Walmart gift card. Sean Sitma.
Are you kidding me?
I think you won that last year.
I did win it last year, but I gave it away last year, and my wife chewed my butt all the way home when I told her.
All right, I believe we'll be giving the raffle ticket to Mr. Sean Sitman then. All right, Sean Sitman got the $500 Walmart card. So
Well, it's only been 17 years since I've won something, so.
All right. And the last one is a $250 fuel card. You ready? This is it. You did really
Karen Van Horn from Denali, Minnesota. Denali, Minnesota. Okay, so before I turn everybody loose here, I do have just a couple of last little comments to make. So first and foremost, thank you for everyone for coming out tonight, supporting Farm Rescue. We've had the banquet in Fargo now over the last number of years. Prior to that, we had it in Bismarck for a couple of years, and prior to that in Jamestown, North Dakota for a number of years. So next year we're actually going to be moving locations a little bit and taking it up into my home stomping territory. Had nothing to do with me, by the way. But it is going to be held in Minot, North Dakota next year, and that is going to be on November 3rd at the Holiday Inn Riverside. We're excited. I'm excited to bring it up there. I know that we've had a significant amount of cases in north central North Dakota. I hope the folks not only from North Dakota, but from a lot of the surrounding areas that we help come up to Minot. It is going to be a spectacular event this year. Of course, each year we try to make it a little more impactful and do it justice. But first and foremost, I want to say thank you to each and everybody that came out, that supported us throughout the year, throughout the years, whether you're a sponsor, whether you're a volunteer or a donor. And then for bidding on all of the different silent auction items and just coming out and showing your support. It means a tremendous amount to us, to the staff, to the volunteers, and to the people and the farm families that are throughout North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Minnesota, and Iowa. There's nothing more profound than getting a phone call from someone or getting stopped on the street from a random person that I've never met before, shaking my hand and for just a plain, simple comment of thank you for being part of Farm Rescue. Thank you for allowing us to come out to your farms, and we just can't be grateful enough for being part of this and being part of your lives. I hope each and every one of you have a great evening. Thank you so much for coming out, and God bless.